This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Joining me now, John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Always good to get the week off to a good start with him. John, how are you this morning?
I'm outstanding. Very good. How are you?
I am doing pretty well myself. A weekend of painting some rooms. I'm almost to the point in life where I'm ready to just outsource that full time now.
Okay. I've got a beagle who's joined us, who's making groaning noises, and I'm sorry about that.
It'll be.
I'll talk over him. I'll talk through him.
It'll be the Brummett and Roscoe show today. So
yeah. Ratings should improve. All right.
All right. This last week we get the verdict in the Manhattan case, the hush money porn case involving Donald Trump, and the guilty on all 34 accounts or counts of doctoring the books to cover up this payout scheme. I guess, first of all, your reaction to the verdict, does this change the calculus of the presidential race?
You know, I'm getting beaten up on social media, which, well, that's not news, but particularly I'm getting beaten up for my immediate reaction, which was that it's a political non-event, that the current American predicament is a political one, that the way to handle Donald Trump is to beat him politically, that I'm not sure Democrats are up to it, and that I'm not sure this verdict moves anything. Yeah, we have a couple of instant polls, and they show that nothing is significantly moving. Some people who are inclined to vote for Trump, say they're more inclined. An equal number say that they're less inclined. People who hate Trump still hate him. People who love Trump still love him. And none of this changes whether Joe Biden has the right message or performance on the economy or the border. And the case was not the most serious of the four cases. It was the least serious. It was brought by a partisan prosecutor. It was. I mean, he's a Democrat who, as a candidate, promised to the prospect, at least, of moving on prosecuting Trump. The jury did its job. I'm not saying there's any injustice here. I'm just saying it mostly embedded existing political attitudes, and the solution to Trump, if you're seeking one, is only a political one on November 5th. And I don't see that affected at all in the verdict or in what's happened after.
I guess I'm not surprised, but I was a little surprised that we did not see more Republican elected officials pushing back. They are obviously beholden to Trump, and they have put their chips all in this poker game on Trump. But, you know, this was an opportunity for them to get off the Trump train. You saw Larry Hogan do it. You obviously saw Asa Hutchinson stay firm in his independence on this issue. But you did not see, I mean, if anything, you just saw a doubling down on, no, Trump's still our guy, despite him being a felon, a convicted felon at this point. And I've seen a lot of spin too from the Republican side, particularly people like Kellyanne Conway and some others that say, hey, this helps Trump being a convicted felon. If that was the case, wouldn't we have more politicians just trying their hardest to be convicted felons? Why does this not damage his reputation with the base?
Well, I guess I'm going to just have to be brutally candid about that. That Trump's a bad guy was not in great dispute. We knew that. And so many people who are for him say, you know, personally, I don't approve of him and he does things I don't like. But the Democrats are implausibly, they're even worse. And the nation, and we've got to fix the border and we've got to fix the economy, and we're weak here and we're weak there. And this wokeism is killing us. And Trump, and the fact that the charges were brought in these four cases had the effect of galvanizing the Republican vote for Trump, both the base and in people who know better, but enable him, because that seems to be where the party's headed, and they're afraid to cross that that attitude, afraid to stand up to it, with the notable exception of, say, Hogan and Ace and people like that. But they'd done that long ago. They did their statements on the verdict were simply more the same. I'm not surprised French Hill put out the statement supporting Trump. He'd like to get a lot of votes in Saline County. He'd like. He wants to get back in office, and that's not the. Politicians make that compromise all the time. Now, this is an extreme case, but they tell themselves they're going to do some good if they're back in office, and they need to be back in office, and they've got experience in the job. They know how to do the job, and sometimes they have to go along to get along. Sam Rayburn said that. So this is an extreme example of that, but it's the same. So I was not surprised. The Arkansas political reactions varied from Cotton and Sanders, who might want to be vice president, who were stronger and more acerbic, and then more general condemnation of supposed bias in that jurisdiction than vitriol. But no, nothing in the last few days has surprised me legally or politically.
All right. You mentioned Tom Cotton and Sarah Sanders, obviously on the VP short list. Maybe it's a long list for Trump at this point in time. We saw a New York Times piece on Senator Tom Cotton about a week ago. He was also on Meet the Press on Sunday, and I think did what you would expect a potential VP candidate on the Trump ticket to do. He defended him adamantly on these charges. What's your take on Tom Cotton being a VP candidate versus Sarah Sanders being a VP candidate? Does one strike you as more vice presidential than the other?
Yes. Tom Cotton strikes me as more vice presidential than Sarah Sanders because he's been in political office more. He has elite academic credentials, and whatever you think of him, and philosophically, he has great command of matters of foreign policy and military policy. I could see him, if not the running mate, the defense secretary if he wanted it. Sarah Sanders is a political operative carrying out Trumpism talking points in Arkansas. So Cotton seems more vice presidential, seems more substantive. I don't think there'd be a great many votes changed by one being the running mate and one being the other, or anybody being Trump's running mate. This is all about Trump and all about resentment and all about fear and loathing of the liberals. So I don't think it matters. I have written, I think that Cotton is the best of the prospective vice presidential possibilities, but he's also the most frightful in the event that he would become president, because he is, by his own account, a very hyper-hawkish, sometimes over-the-top conservative. And I would fear him as president more than somebody who was just a political operative. But I think I can understand why Trump would watch him on some of these national talk shows and say, why not him? He went to Harvard, and boy, he's right wing, and he talks good, and that's what Trump wants to hear. So I see him as a better, more substantive prospect to be Trump's running mate, but happens to be the guy I would fear most were he to ascend to the presidency, which makes him all the stronger as a vice presidential. You see the conundrum. You see the way all these things work together, or not.
I smell a Brummett column coming up here.
Well, it's sort of occurring to me right now, and I'll try to write it a little better than I'm saying it. But you're getting the point, I think.
I do. All right.
Yeah.
Last question for you. So you obviously read a lot of what's happening with national Democratic politics. There's not as much to say or do here, although you probably hear from some Democrats in Arkansas. If you're the Joe Biden campaign and this guilty verdict does not change the political calculus, what needs to happen for Joe Biden to get the advantage that he needs to win the presidential election? What should his message be?
Well, I'm old and Southern and a moderate lean Democrat type, and I covered the 1992 Democratic presidential campaign with Bill Clinton, and I got to know James Carville, and I sat in the Gazette, former Gazette building, the Clinton headquarters, and talked to James Carville. So I'm a Carville guy, even as he's old and cranky. And he says Democratic messaging is for bleep. It's no good. Why are you talking about giving student loans to Harvard students and taking the money from the working people, and you've got a 10 ear to grocery prices and gas prices, and you're trying to tell people the economy is good because the stock market's good and job numbers are good, when people know in their middle class and low middle class existences that it's not good for them. He said it, the message then was the economy's stupid. It needs to be that now, but it needs to be that in a clear and sensitive way. Then, after the verdict, one of Obama's smart advisors, David Axelrod, put that in a kinder way. He said, don't jump to try to exploit this guilty verdict. Rise above it and connect with people on the same kinds of issues Carville's talking about. Have a better, more effective message on the border, but have a softer, more connecting message on the economy. If they don't do that, this thing it's wide. It's up for grabs, really, in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Those just swing, implausibly undecided voters in those three states. And you got to find a way to connect to those people. And chortling and celebrating because the other guy got criminally convicted on a tawdry matter is not the way to go. And that's what Axelrod put on social media. It's what I agree with. It's what James Carville says. And I think nearly 80 and yelling, "Get off my lawn," a lot of people say, is he's telling a lot of truth. So that's what they need to do. That's what he needs to do.
Old and cranky. I'm going to keep that in mind. So, all right.
Well, I'm referring to myself.
Oh, no. You were referring to James Carville. So,
Yes, but I admire his style. Yeah.
All right. John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Appreciate your take as always.
And I appreciate the opportunity to give it. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.